Hey there, Empowered Tribe. It's Angela T. Moore. You're getting ready to experience the 12th episode of Empowered, a health and wellness podcast where I share my personal journey of health and healing, tips for mental and physical health, interviews with health and wellness experts and those bold enough and vulnerable enough to share their own journeys to empower you to succeed in yours. We know that life can be rewarding. It can also be challenging. It has its ups and downs, highs and lows. I learned that with a strong mind and a fit body, you are better able to grow through and grow from whatever life throws your way. My goal is to share journeys of health and wellness, as well as tips and information from extraordinary people all around the world to help you live an empowered life. My guest, Dr. Michele D. Clark, is a breast cancer thriver, transformational speaker, best-selling author, podcast hostess, and life coach. Her life story of overcoming insurmountable odds and disseminating the message that women can recreate their lives through the power of positive thought and resilience has landed her the title, the Hope Dealer of the speaking industry. Dr. Clark's background consists of over 20 years of experience in the mental health industry, bachelor's and master's degree in psychology and social work respectively, honorary PhD in recognition of entrepreneurship and business administration, and certification in coaching and speaking. In this episode, Dr. Clark talks about her personal journey of health and healing and how after her personal journey with breast cancer, Dr. Michele birthed Life After Breast Cancer, LLC, to create a community that fosters authentic sisterhoods for high-performing female breast cancer survivors. Dr. Clark is on a mission to empower women to live inspired, free, and transform after breast cancer. I hope you enjoy the episode. Dr. Michele, you openly share in your bio that you survived 2 strokes.
Yes.
One TIA or transient ischemic attack, which for those that may not be familiar with that is a stroke that lasts only a few minutes, as well as stage 2 breast cancer. Now, on the other side, how would you describe your personal journey of health and healing?
You know, Angela, that is, I would say that I describe it as imperfectly perfect.
Okay.
Meaning that it was definitely nothing that I saw in the cards for myself, nothing that I would have designed for myself. But obviously, there were a process and a plan that was already in place for me in order for me to go through that journey. So for me, it seemed like it was imperfect because it was hard. I mean, just, letting our hair down and talking, it really was difficult. The strokes were traumatic. Stage 2 breast cancer, just recovering from the strokes 1 year, in the following year being diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. It really threw me off my square. I'm a high achiever, I'm a doer, and to not be able to do the things that I normally could do. When I had the strokes, I lost my speech. My whole right side, couldn't use it. When I had breast cancer, I had to have a mastectomy and radiation therapy and all the things that go along with the recovery journey. So to say the least, I was not myself. And I know this may sound weird, but I wouldn't take it away.
Okay.
I wouldn't take it away only because what it has allowed me to come out and emerge as.
I see.
There's process that we go through. When we think about the butterfly, of course, it starts as a caterpillar, has to go in a cocoon, and it comes out that way, right?
Right.
So there's different processes that we go through that help us to grow through. And so I wouldn't be the me that you see sitting before you if I hadn't gone through those things.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, I get that. I often say that it's the most difficult times of our life that pull out the greatest things
That's right.
about ourselves. When we're in the comfort zone, I find that we don't have to really dig in. We don't really have to take time to really see what we're made of.
That's right.
We don't have a lot demanded of us. And I think that when you have to dig in deep and when you have a lot that is demanded of you, that's when you really have to pull it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no testimonies without the word test.
No, true. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. And so you're basically saying you feel like that without the strokes, without the breast cancer, you don't think that you would be the woman you are today?
Oh, I know I wouldn't.
Okay.
I know I wouldn't. And I don't know who I would be. You know, we can only, there was this movie a long time ago called Sliding Doors. And basically we can either go and make the train or miss the train. And then, of course, in movies, we can see what would happen in the parallel universes. But in real life, we don't have that insight and foresight to be able to see parallel universes. So I don't know who I would be at this point. But I know the lady that you're sitting before you right now, Dr. Michele, you see before you right now, Angela, I wouldn't be that same person.
So a better version?
I would say, could I say better? I'm not sure. Different.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes we qualify things as better or worse, and it's just different. So I like to think I'd still be the best version of me, just different.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, explain.
So I like to think.
Okay. I get it. Now, what's interesting, after your own personal journey with breast cancer, specifically breast cancer,
yes,
you birthed Life After Breast Cancer LLC to create a community that fosters authentic, I like this, sisterhoods for high-performing female breast cancer survivors. What can you tell me about how you're using your personal journey with breast cancer to empower others?
Absolutely. And if I can just walk back just a little bit, is that okay?
Sure.
So when I was going through the breast cancer, right, and it was a long process. We're talking 7 years.
Oh, 7 years. Okay.
So yes, I had the mastectomy. That was immediate. And then we started the journey of breast reconstruction.
Okay.
That was interrupted by the TIA.
Okay.
And then I had to wait. I had to wait to recover from that.
How long was your recovery from that?
It was immediate for the TIA because it didn't leave any negative impact. The original stroke did.
Okay.
Prior to the breast cancer, but after having the TIA, it was transient.
Okay.
And it was brief, and I recovered like immediately.
Okay.
But I still had to wait because there's medications that I had to take after the strokes. And so the medications, the surgeons didn't want to perform surgery to do the breast reconstruction surgery because they said that I need to come off those medications. Well, guess what? I mean, a neurologist and cardiovascular team is not going to take you off medications that is life-saving per se, or at least preventive in nature, for an elective surgery.
Of course.
Now, they see it as elective. For me, I didn't see it as elective. See, for me, because I had the mastectomy, I lost my left breast.
Okay.
Now, I had to say, a different kind of relationship with my breast.
Okay, explain.
All right. So when I was growing up and I saw the girls around me maturing and getting their bosoms, and I was still waiting on mine. I'm drinking milk. I don't know what's going on.
Drinking milk. I love that.
And so I was always on the smaller side. I was a part of a committee, itty bitty committee. Like some people, ladies know about this, right?
I love it.
And so I used to get teased about that, Angela.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, to the point where I was in tears. There were some comments that I still recall that some guys would say that really hurt me to the core.
Sorry for that.
So, and you know, I appreciate you apologizing for that. but literally. And so I had a kind of a distal relationship with my breasts because of that. And so now fast forward some 20 odd years and some change maybe, you know, and now I have to have one removed. So it's like adding a layer of trauma, if you will, on top of trauma.
Okay.
That I wasn't expecting, that I didn't want. And so, you know, with that, I felt like I was more incomplete. And this may sound, it may sound weird, because I know, listen, ladies, we are not our breast. Let's get that right.
Yes, of course.
Well, we still have to acknowledge that when we've gone through something as emotional as teasing, and nowadays it may be been called bullying, you know, back when we were growing up.
Right, yeah.
But really bullying, they left a emotional scar on me. And so I felt like I was incomplete. So to me, it was not a elective surgery. for me, it was putting me back together again. Let me tell you something. I know it's getting a little serious.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you something. I was not just going to be put back together, Angela.
Okay.
Upgrade me. I was like, let's go, surgical team. 20 is the new 40 in the breast realm, right? So I wanted to go back in time, if you will, and be more well endowed. And again, that's not everybody's journey.
I get that.
So for breast cancer survivors, thrivers I like to call us, that doesn't have to be your testimony. I know some beautiful women who decide not to reconstruct, and they're just as beautiful. That's just my story, my journey.
Well, and what I like to say is that you have a right
Yes.
to have your story.
That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what we want to definitely emphasize here.
Absolutely.
Because truly, each person's journey is their own journey, and how they decide to navigate through those different parts of their journey is totally up to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we talked about earlier, it's not better or worse. It's just different.
Okay.
It's just different.
Okay.
So through that process, when I had to wait, right? So in the waiting, in the pause. So now I'm almost like paused in my pain, if you will. But it gave me permission now to really think about what was the purpose. Purpose. Because again, being a doer, you zip, 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 you're doing this, you're doing that, things are flying by, you're not really taking the time to evaluate what's going on. And I won't say you, I'll personalize this, me. I wasn't taking the time to just really sit in and understand what my body was going through, what my mind was going through, what was this process, what does it mean? So this last go around, so I started the reconstruction process back in 2019, and then you know what happened in 2020?
Yes.
Another pause, because COVID shut everything down. As a matter of fact, I had a revision surgery 1 week before COVID shut everything down. So when I went for my post-op, the very next day, COVID shut everything down. So we didn't finish. It was just another pause, because it was just a revision, right?
Now, when you say you weren't able to finish, can you explain what that meant?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I started the breast reconstruction surgery process back in 2019.
Gotcha.
So I had the latissimus dorsi flap. That's basically where they take a portion of your back, your dorsi, and they flip it around to the front, make it a pocket.
Okay.
Because of the fact that I had radiation therapy, the skin and the muscle in that area would not have been, I don't want to say malleable enough, but it just wouldn't have sustained an implant, because that's what we're going for. We're going to reconstruct with a silicone implant.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we're going to do augmentation on the other side to match the girls.
Right. Of course. You want them equal. Right. Right.
So what happened was they had to put an expander in to expand the area, and then place the implant in there.
Gotcha.
So my expander started leaking. So I was expanded enough where they were able to remove the expander and then put in a placement holder, if you will, implant.
Gotcha.
Well, COVID hit, and so we had to stop that process. So now I had to wait again. So here we go with this pause. Another delay. So fast forward now, I decided, okay, in 2022, I said, okay, I'm ready to go back in. I think COVID is a lot behind us. Not saying it's over, but I think I feel comfortable enough to go back into a surgical procedure.
Okay.
And so we scheduled it, and it was going to be March 23rd of 23. So 03-23-23. So I was like, oh, there's something in there with that, right? I'm like, what's in there with that? What does this mean, right? Well, I'll tell you what it meant. It didn't mean what I thought it was going to mean. So I got myself prepped emotionally, physically, ready to go. The day of surgery, have my cap and gown on, the surgical graduation cap and gown on the table, waiting to be wheeled back, only to have the nurse come in and say, I'm sorry, one of the tests that we administered, you didn't pass it. You can't have your surgery today.
Were you devastated?
I don't know if the English language has a word to really describe how I felt. I literally felt like somebody gut punched me.
Okay.
All the wind out of me. I was in disbelief and disarray emotionally. And so at that point, of course, I had to leave. And I cried. And I was angry with God. I was angry with God. I said, okay, come on, God. What's going on here now? All of these delays, pause. What is going on? It's like Murphy's Law on steroids. I don't understand. And it was in that pause in those conversations with God that I had the revelation.
Mm.
And so now I'm fast forwarding to the birth of Lift Nation.
Gotcha.
And the birth of Lift After Breast Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So with Lift After Breast Cancer, I got the revelation that it's not for me to gloss over my experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me to pause, not to perpetuate the pain, but to pull out the purpose.
I gotcha.
Pull out the purpose.
Yeah.
And I became passionate in it. And I said, you know what? There's a reason why I had to pause in the breast cancer journey. Mm-hmm. And of course, I also have a business coach, and we talked some things through. We had a heart-to-heart, if you will. And I realized that it's my purpose to work with breast cancer survivors. Mm-hmm. That's what I need to be doing. Because there was so much that I went through in a span from the mastectomy until the reconstruction, 70 years. Completion.
Yeah. 7 years completion.
So that journey, it was epic. It was imperfectly perfect.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, it's really interesting because I know that there are many women and man, and I will say man because man gets breast cancer too, that have survived breast cancer or are in the midst of the fight against breast cancer and are wanting to become and stay, you know, mentally and physically well. I want you to, if you can, share some mental and physical health tips for those individuals that are now trying to find some purpose in their pain, some purpose in the pause.
Yes.
Because I think that someone like myself who's never experienced breast cancer, I don't think, and not that I could not effectively provide some very important information, you know, mental and physical health tips because I'm a trainer, I'm a therapist, I can do that. But I honestly believe that we go through certain things in our lives. And when we go through those very difficult times, and whatever it is that we need to do to kind of navigate through those times, and the information that we learn, the experiences that we have as we kind of, I would say, powerfully navigate through those moments, I think that once we are able to get to a place where we are strong enough, that we have a personal responsibility to share.
Yes.
And I think we have an even greater responsibility to share with those individuals that are going through something similar to what we just went through.
100%. 100%. You know, Angela, I do feel like it's a responsibility, you know, and it's a privilege. You know, it's a privilege to be able to sit on this side of recovery and now be able to reach back. Because that's one of the things is that when we go through something, it's not just for us. It is for us to go through it, grow through it, and then reach back and help someone else. Help someone else.
Yeah.
So the first thing I always like to tell either my clients or, you know, or if I'm having a conversation with someone who may have shared they had breast cancer, I just say, you know what? First and foremost, breathe. Breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many times we don't breathe. And that has so many, it's physical and it's also psychological, emotional, mental, the breathing, the breath work in there. Let me take a quick detour. I just literally just had a mammogram, my first mammogram after my surgical procedure, which was back in August. So it's recent.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, okay. August 14th.
Okay, yeah,
yes.
Very recent.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I just have, and so at the time, you know, they have you do these positions and things like that.
Yeah.
They tell you, okay, breathe. Okay, don't breathe.
Right.
Okay, breathe, don't breathe. And it was at one point where she was positioning me and I was not breathing. I wasn't breathing. She says, okay, so I'm going to tell you to stop breathing. I was like, oh, I already wasn't breathing.
I've been holding my breath this whole time.
She was like, no, please breathe. I don't want you to pass out. So sometimes, as weird as it may sound, we do forget to breathe. We forget to breathe and we forget to get that quality breath in.
Yeah.
And the breathing serves a purpose also for a different kind of pause, a purposeful pause, the pause that we impart ourselves. Okay. So really the first thing I would tell people to do is breathe. And there's different types of breathing, right? But you want to breathe from the diaphragm, not from the chest. You really want to get that hearty belly, that belly moving in, right? Get the air flowing. Some people do the box where they breathe, pause, breathe in, of course, inhale, pause, exhale, pause, right? That's the box. I like more of a circular, a fluid.
Okay, explain.
I like the fluid because it mimics our regular breathing.
Right, I get that. Yeah.
So when you're sleeping, unless you have apnea, when you're sleeping, you see that rhythmic rise and fall. There really isn't a pause per se. And so I like to encourage people, well, whatever works for you, but I like to encourage people to do the circle so it can mimic that calm state, because that's why we breathe is one, of course, to bring in oxygen rich, right?
Of course.
That's into our bodies. And also for us to mimic the calm state. So we find ourselves stressed out. We find ourselves in between a lot of the things that we do on a normal basis. Sometimes we just take that pause and breathe. And I usually just close my eyes and just put myself in a different state. So that's one thing.
Okay.
So on top of that, so we want to layer, because there's stacking, right? We can do stacking of different strategies.
Of course.
So I just naturally closed my eyes, because that's something that I do, right?
Okay.
And when I close my eyes, I implement visualization.
Okay.
So visualizing myself. And no matter where we're at in the breast cancer journey, all these strategies work, right? It doesn't matter where you're at in the journey. We're just talking about life after breast cancer right now. So visualization. So we've already been through a journey. We've already had a pathway. So now where do we envision ourselves right now? Because right now may look a little bit different than it would have looked if we didn't have this trajectory of the breast cancer journey. So there's some things that may be different that we may not be able to do that we used to be able to do. It's real. You might find yourself with fatigue. You might still, because especially if you've gone through radiation therapy, they always tell us, you may be done with the radiation therapy, but it may not be done with you. Years after, it's still doing its deal in our bodies.
Okay, now I don't know that everyone knows that.
Yes. And it lingers. It's lingering in our body, and it's doing things in our body. And actually for myself, it was the tightening of the skin. And I don't know, maybe, I don't know how much time we have, but in itself, when I went through the radiation therapy, there was a visual and emotional transformation, negative, of my body.
Okay.
Like I literally showered and saw my skin going down the drain. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And so the body has to heal. The body has to thicken itself back up. They say, oh, you need to have thicker skin. Well, I literally did not have thicker skin in that moment.
That, yeah.
In that moment, over that part of my body that was so vulnerable and susceptible. And so it takes years for us to regenerate and for us to recover from the negative impact. And then if you have to I had to take preventive chemotherapy. Okay. So I have that, and up to 10 years, right? So I'm still within that period. I'm still in that period, so I still take it. And the things that it's doing to our bodies, the aftermath of that as well. So visualization, meaning we may not be able to do the same things that we used to do. We may not be able to lift what we did. We may have fatigue. We may have to change and alter even our lifestyles, if you will.
Yeah, and I will add, you may not even look like you used to.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Drastic difference.
And even coming to terms with that.
Correct.
So all of these different aspects that's going on in our lives, while we're breathing, right? Don't need to breathe.
Yeah.
So while we're breathing, really closing our eyes and visualizing the life that we want for ourselves. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does it sound like? This might sound weird, but what does it taste like?
I don't think that's weird. Yeah. I don't think that's weird at all. Toni Morrison, I actually watched a documentary about Toni Morrison. Are you familiar with her books?
Yes.
Yeah, I love Toni Morrison. And that was one of the things that she was actually encouraging other writers to do.
Yes.
To really get to that place where they're going to be able to write from the place that you need to, I think, to be an effective writer. And it's interesting because everything that you just said is what she suggested that the authors do in order to just write a page or a paragraph. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she did say, what does it taste like?
Yes. What does it taste like? That's right. And even what does it feel like? So what I just did was I did another stacking. I did another stacking in there, and that's a grounding technique where I took us through each of our 5 senses.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So in that visualization, so in the breathing, in the visualization, and then in the grounding technique, it brings us center.
Okay.
It brings us to the now. Because in our journey, there's so much that we've experienced that sometimes our minds get stuck in the pause. They get stuck in the pause and in the painful parts of the pause.
Oh, that's really significant.
Yes.
What you said. Yeah. Getting stuck is one thing. To get stuck in the painful parts,
yes,
I think is really important to emphasize.
Yeah, our minds work in a loop.
Yes.
A lot of our thoughts are previous thoughts. And unfortunately, 80% of our thoughts are negatives. Between 70 to 80% of our thoughts are negative. I don't know why that is. It just is. So think about this. If 70 to 80% of our thoughts are negative, and let's say it's roughly about 80% of our thoughts are past previous thoughts, we're stuck in this negative cycle that we can't do anything about. You can't change the past.
Yeah.
So we have to work to bring ourselves back to present, to ground ourselves in the present. And now play on words so that we can see the present, the gift.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The present.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because we're still here.
Most definitely.
That's an applaud. We're still here.
Yeah.
So that's another nugget I would give is now let's celebrate.
Yeah.
So we're here, right? We're in the present. Let's celebrate. Let's get some celebration going on, big, tall, small, and all.
Yeah.
No matter what those things are. Listen, I got up this morning and didn't have to hit the snooze. Amen. Hallelujah.
I love it. Yeah, I love
seriously.
it. Yeah.
When we are drained from all the things that go on in our life and then place on top of that the trauma that our bodies have experienced with the breast cancer.
Yeah.
Oh, child, sometimes when we get up without that snooze button, it's like, I did it. I did this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rejoice in it. Because it's like, I used to do that and now I'm doing that again.
Yeah. Now, do you think that unfortunately it takes things like that, strokes, breast cancer, traumatic events, to shift us into that type mindset? Do you think that you have to have those types of experiences to remember, to pause, and to not even just smell the flowers, but to notice the flowers even exist?
I thought about, so I paused when you answered that question because I got an image in my mind, and I really work in imagery. I got an image of Hansel and Gretel. I know you're like, wait a minute, where are we going with this? Where are we going with this, Michelle? No, I got an image because the breadcrumbs. I thought about the breadcrumbs of the journey. And everybody's breadcrumbs are different.
Yes.
And sometimes our breadcrumbs, we're able to identify what they are. And sometimes we gloss over them, meaning that we could have something traumatic happen to us. And this is neither good or bad, but we may not be traumatized. So you can experience trauma, but not be traumatized.
Right.
Where some people feel like, oh, I had to be traumatized in order to make this transition. Not necessarily so. So everybody's journey is different. Like someone may experience something and I may not even consider it a trauma because of things that, well, I've been through breast cancer, what you've been through. Now we're trying to, compare, but there is no comparison because everybody has their own cross to bear. Everybody has their own threshold.
Most definitely. Yeah.
So do I believe that we have to have this life-threatening journey in order to have an epiphany? No, I don't. But what I can say is I hope that going through this, you do find some kind of purpose and passion on the other side. Because the worst thing in the world, I would say, is to have this tragedy happen to you and then come out on the other side the same.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And when I say the same, I mean not realizing why it happened and what you can do with it.
Yeah.
How you can go ahead.
With it.
With it.
Yeah, that's key. That's key. Yeah.
Because you've experienced what you experienced. Again, don't pause in the pain. Now we're going to pause. Right. We're going to have pain, and then we move on to the promise. Don't stop shy of the promise.
I got you. Well, Well, I'm going to ask you something because I think that this is really important, because something that I always say in the intro to the show is that life has its ups and downs, highs and lows. Okay. And we've been talking about the downs and the lows, and then the ups, and the highs that you found through that. And hopefully, I believe as you move forward, you will help people navigate through their lows and downs. And I think in a more powerful, purposeful way. All right. But one of the things that I like to ask my guests is, what would you say of those ups and downs, those highs and lows, were your greatest accomplishments, as well as what would you say was your greatest challenge or challenges? Yeah.
That's, it's a loaded question because there's so many challenges.
I said greatest.
Yes, I know you did.
Yeah.
What was I would say that, and maybe it's the recency effect, right? So when things happen to us more recently, it's easier to conjure up the image and the memory. Well, I really would have to say that 2023 was life-shattering for me. If I could say, I was shooketh.
Shooketh.
I was shooketh.
I love it, shooketh.
Seriously.
Creative work.
Yeah, listen, if you hang with me, my sister actually started writing a Micheleisms, a dictionary for things that I say. Well, yeah, I was shooketh, Angela.
Yeah.
I literally, because I never saw it coming. Never saw it coming.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, literally, cap and gown on the table, ready to go. Let's go. Yeah. Emotionally ready.
Yeah.
I've been bottled up, holding these emotions in for 7 years. Plus, and I say the plus just because you add a couple of months prior to that, prior to me even getting the mastectomy, I knew I was going to lose my girl. I knew I was going to lose her. So all of that, the only thing I could focus on was when I found out, okay, you can reconstruct. And it was holding on to that. I was holding on to that it was like a leaf blowing in the wind. And first we were on the limb. And we were barely holding on. And when that surgery was taken from me, it was like we just blew away. And I had no idea where I was going to land. Emotionally, I was in a place that I'd never been before. I never felt so lost.
You know what I think is really key? And I love you see I use imagery.
Yes.
Yeah. I love the way that you painted that picture, because I visualized that. I visualized a leaf falling, and I visualized it blowing. And I visualized, because I'm talking with you and I'm totally present and focused on you, I didn't see the leaf land. And I imagine for you that's probably what it was like. It was like you were the leaf and you were blowing.
Yes.
And you didn't know where you were going to land, when or where you were going to land.
That's right.
Yeah.
I had no idea. No idea in that moment. We talked about me feeling devastated.
Yeah.
I was devastated. I was shook to my core. And I literally had questions. I told you, I talked to God.
Yeah. You said you were.
Oh, yeah, I let him. But God, we need to talk.
Yeah. And I think anyone that reads the Bible, you understand that God's okay with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. He likes the authenticity.
Yes.
Quite honestly.
And I've never had that kind of a conversation with him that I had.
Oh, okay.
Oh, honey, we talked.
Okay.
We talked.
Okay.
But I'm so happy and grateful and so blessed that I got an answer. And sometimes, Angela, we miss the answer because we are not peace be still. We're not still. And we miss it. That's right there.
Yeah.
So because I had to delay. The delay was there. There's nothing I could do about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But the blessing is I wasn't denied.
Gotcha. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your life, out of your journey. I'm so honored to have you as a guest on today's podcast, and I definitely want to have you back, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation, and I really enjoyed today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you so much, Michele. Thanks for listening to Empowered with Angela T. Moore. Feel free to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it. New episodes come out weekly. Follow our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.